It's just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Helmut Flasch all the way from Vienna, Austria. My gosh, it's my lunch hour. It's 11 o'clock here in Phoenix. What time is it in Austria?
It's actually 8 o'clock, and I just realized, I hope I haven't underestimated the sun going down too fast and it gets dark where I am.
So when I think of Vienna, Austria, I think of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. His dad was a music teacher in Austria. Is that your most favorite Austrian citizen that you can think of?
You know, I don't know. I was always bad in this type
Arnold
of history.
Schwarzenegger?
He's right up there, I suppose. He's right up there. And Wolfgang Bach, of course, you know.
So it's either Mozart or Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
So let me read your bio. You have a very interesting bio. Helmut Flasch is an international speaker, management consultant, best-selling author, and founder of the Unadvertising marketing strategies. For 26 years, he has helped small business owners in 3 continents worldwide to improve their business with his unique approach, unadvertising. Unadvertising is an elegant approach to expanding a business without relying on traditional advertising. In the U.S., he has helped dentists to increase new patients and grow private practices. He has published 3 books, Double Your Business But Not Your Troubles, You Too Can Be Happy, and Economic Deception and Jobless Recovery Exposed, Why Getting Fired is the Best Thing That Could Happen to You. Ryan, are those all on Amazon?
They should be, yeah.
Can you push those out on all our social media and send text to me? So I got to ask you, what is unadvertising?
Well, it is a little bit of what it says. It is don't really advertise. Of course, that can also be misconstrued. So I'm not saying that one doesn't need the channels of advertising. What it really means is the message. The message which goes out there should be less a buy this, do this, I'm the best doctor. Let's talk about dentists because this is what this is all about. But it would apply to the car mechanic and to everybody else the same way. I have this and this machinery. I'm nice. I'm friendly. I go to continuous education. My clowns are cheaper than the other guys. All that type of stuff would be advertising and would be a message which is unemotional. Of course, there's not a single dentist or a single car mechanic who says, I kind of almost flunked in school. I had to cheat to make it through. And frankly, I don't really like continuous education. I go sometimes when I really have to in order to keep my credentials up. And there I do mainly beer drinking. But nobody says that. And if you are unfriendly and not consumer orientated or something like that, which usually you can see often in marketing and in advertising slogans, well, in today's world, you probably get sued if you're not that. You know, I mean, so those are all things everybody has. It doesn't make you stick out. I mean, after all, we are all people. And the truth is, if you look in the stock market, people don't pick stocks by best performance. They pick the stocks by the person who talks to them and says, you know, I think this works. And somehow they trust that person. Now, how does one get that trust? In the old days, that was talking to people, that was being on the street, whether it's the car mechanic or the dentist or the heart surgeon. He would walk through the street. He would actually still talk to people. And thus, of course, this word of mouth and this normal trust could grow. Today, it is impossible to do that. Even going to breakfast meetings and all this type of things where everybody just goes there to get one more lead. And at the beginning, maybe in such a Rotary meeting or so, you do maybe make some connections. But it's very soon over. So the key is to fit emotional messages, which in most cases, or at least often, have nothing to do with dentistry into the people's world. And by doing so, they embrace you. Basically, you've got to give people a reason to talk about you, which has little or nothing to do with dentistry. Because no matter whether you're a heart surgeon, a brain surgeon, a car mechanic, or a dentist, your profession, in the thing you're handling in people's life, is very, very little. It's important, got that, but it's little. It doesn't make for a topic. I mean, imagine if you, at a Thanksgiving dinner, look everybody in the mouth and say, I think you need a crown. This one wasn't done so well. You should take better care of your teeth. The Thanksgiving dinner wouldn't go over so well. Or at least that will be, next time you'll be empty. So basically, a dentist or any professional who keeps only talking about his profession will basically be doomed out. And unadvertising is just that. It's an emotional message, and it involves things which have little or nothing to do with dentistry. And everybody has a lots of interests in life, which interests a lots of other people.
Boy, I tell you that's especially true in the stock market. Like Jeff Bezos with Amazon. I mean, he has the highest market capitalization for the least amount of profit in stock market history. I mean, that guy has built a fortune without earnings. And then Elon Musk, same way. They all Steve Jobs did it. I mean, his commercial was that 1984 weird thing. Remember when he launched the Macintosh and had that really weird commercial? It had nothing to do with the computer, but people just bought into Jeff Bezos at Amazon, Elon Musk at Tesla, Steve Jobs with Apple. You talk about trying to get other people to toot your horn for you instead of tooting your own horn. Well, how do you get other people to toot your horn as opposed to you tooting?
Yeah, it fits right in what I said. So let's continue there. Let's give a little bit more, concrete information about how you involve people in other messages rather than dentistry, and how do you make it emotional. So it's what interests people out there. There's lots of things. We can talk about flowers and all that qualifies. However, let's look at children. Children can be divided into, let's say, poor children, sick children, or extremely energetic and go-getter, next Steve Jobs type of children, whatever, right? Then we have elderly people and or, let's say, poor people. Those are enormous, or animals, anything and everything to do with animals. It has a huge amount of people looking at it and reacting. I mean, just look at the cats on Facebook. Nothing against cats. I like cats. I like dogs. I grew up with dogs here in Austria all the time. I don't have one anymore. But so those activities, those things. So if you kind of like do things for those people or those animals, make sure that it is quite local. For instance, you do something for the local poor people. Nothing else than washed out television stars do. At Thanksgiving, they couldn't get a movie anymore. They couldn't get on screen anymore. So what do? They dish out food in a soup kitchen. Well, let me tell you something. A dentist, I'm not saying he has to do that and should do that, but there are things he can do where people go, what a nice guy. And that's all they need. What a nice guy. Because everybody is the best dentist. Everybody's a good dentist. And it's actually true. I mean, dentistry is good and everything is good. And it's not, when people go to 10 different dentists, more or less, they're happy with almost all of them. We have to really realize that. So talking about good dentistry is one thing, but I like him. He loves cats. He helps the people in our neighborhood. You know, he donates food to the food kitchen. And how does he then actually, very easy, connect that with dentistry? Shall I make an example or not?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's make one. For instance, let's just say you have, let's take something people need and want from dentistry. You know, certain things we need and certain things we want. And sometimes there's something we need and want. A dental cleaning is actually something most of us need and want. Because after a while, we start realizing we should get a cleaning. We do, even though some people go very long without one, but still somewhere. So they need it and they want it. So let's assume, and we have done that not once, but literally thousands of times. Let's assume the average dental cleaning is, I don't know, $100. Let's just put a good number to it across the country. Okay, and you make it enormously inexpensive, and on top of it, you say, and part or all of it, if you want to be aggressive, which I can get into it later. Aggressiveness is really key. You say all of it goes to the local food drive, to the local hospital to the local whatever. There are millions of things. That message gets perceived. That message gets commented on Facebook. That message it stays in people's mind. They may or may not need a dentist today. We know that. Or they may need one but yet don't go. We know all that. But that stays in people's mind. It's not the first time that I would, for instance, let's go back to the old days when we used to do that. And after I do this with a doctor in New York, actually, he says, Helmut, even the yellow page starts working better. I go, yeah, of course, because people now recognize you. People now know you. So if and when they see you in the yellow page, they now go, isn't that the guy who? And bang, they call. So I'm not so sure I was very clear of what I wanted to say, but one can do some things for the community without having to go out and shake hands and go yourself to food drive kitchens and do all kinds of things. Just with that motion alone, and of course that can be made in so many different ways. It's not even real.
You are so right about children, elderly, poor, sick, and especially animals. Because when that dentist Walter Palmer shot Cecil the lion, holy moly, did he take a backlash! And right now we're going through that again. Right now with the founder of Jimmy John Sandwiches, Jimmy John Lyotard, a bunch of pictures showing up of him shooting elephants and rhinos and all that, just like the founder of GoDaddy. And the backlash is, on Facebook, I've already seen tons of people saying they're never eating at Jimmy John's Pizza again because he shot a rhino and an elephant. But and another thing, you talk about helping the poor. So many dentists. If you go on the Dental Town on the website, we have 50 categories, and one of them is humanitarian dentistry. And there's all these dentists have done the most amazing missionary trips to Africa and Asia and all around the world, Vietnam, all these places, but they don't put those on their website. And you're saying that pictures of them doing missionary dental work in Haiti is more important than a bunch of alphabet soup stuff behind their name with a bunch of letters and initials that nobody even knows what they stand for anyway.
Of course, very much so. And of course, going to Haiti and doing all these things is all wonderful. And we all should more or less live our life with what we like to do. And we should not get sworn that we only do things because it's good public relation or whatever. We should not become this type of politicians. And yes, you touched on something enormously important, and important in the fact that a big mistake. Not just dentists, by the way. Dentists always tell me, I know we are bad business people. And I say, you know what? Probably, but not worse than the other guys. But in the end, if you look, there's less dentists going broke than car mechanics or restaurants or. So actually, in the end, you must be actually still a better business person, or your profession carries you easier. It doesn't really matter. But here's the thing. Here's a mistake which most people make. They do things. And of course, with our help or with once they know about it, they could do tremendous amount more. But they never publicize it. They don't know, even if they do get in the newspaper. That's why so many people think the media, it isn't really what it's cracked up to be. And it's true. You mentioned it at the beginning. The media is losing its power, but it's still there. And in the game of synergy, we still want to use it. And but why does the media not bring anything? Because yesterday's news is old news. So if you do not keep that newspaper article which said, Dr. Schmidt helped young kids in their career, or Dr. Schmidt saved a kitty cat, or whatever it is, or he went to India, or whatever it is. If you do not keep that article alive every day, and today, we have no excuse to do that anymore. Today we can put this article in some computer program or have a kid doing it, make it beautiful looking, and then blast it out daily and daily and daily all over the places. That's a whole different topics. We're getting to that. Because obviously any message, no matter how humanitarian and how whatever, still does need to be distributed on the existing channels. And there's only so many channels we have. That's a whole different ballgame. But that message, that article never gets distributed by the doctors. So he says, it brought me a guy here, a guy there, but nothing to be writing mommy home. Of course not, because you're not using it all the time. Let me tell you, I got interviewed by a show called Keeping America Strong, William Shatner, I don't know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I don't remember, a long time ago. We still make money off that show today. Why? Because we still keep putting it out. And when we talk to a client and we tell, look, the program is so and so much and it's this, and he's a little, we say, okay, well, look at this, look at that, and it's part of it. I'm not saying that this interview or any other interview will sway everybody. No, but it's constantly out there. People have to show himself where we appeared on this Keep America Strong. I don't know how many people watched it. 5, 10, 100, who cares? Nobody called from the show. Nobody. But we making clippings of it, we putting it out over and over again, 15 years later, that's a different ballgame. So you are very, very right. Basically the fish can bite. If you don't wheel it in, you won't eat.
If my homies go to your website, unadvertised.com, what are they going to find at unadvertised.com?
Frankly, not much. They'll get some way of contacting us, and they will get perhaps a little bit of idea. They'll see some articles I wrote. But again, I do not think that a program like that is involved with unadvertising, get emotional message out, talk about things which have nothing to do with dentistry, and there are hundreds and thousands of ways on how to do that. And obviously, because we do it for 30 years, well, to us it comes easy to come up with another example because not everybody likes the same example. And then how to use the modern, always the modern. When I started, it was Facebook, it was coupon, ballpark, it was flyer, it was all those type of things which worked rather well back then. Well, now it's other things. All that, the person probably, I don't think we ever made a sale without not talking an hour or two to that person, and in most cases a couple times an hour or two, in order to really that the person grasp what we're saying. We say it for 20 years, so of course we grasp it right away. Another person doesn't. It's not possible. And besides, his practice, first of all, he thinks it's very different, and he's right, because in the end, we still need to adapt to him of what he likes. For instance, to get him to be known an animal lover when he really is rather disconnected with animals, not necessarily hating them, but disconnected. Well, that wouldn't be a good thing, right? And also has an existing situation. We need to be adjustable, flexible to situations in which he is in. Very often, doctors do a tremendous amount of things which we can turn into gold, where we couldn't do that without talking to him. So we don't. Yes, we all have a cookie cut program. Let's not, let's not pretend that we don't do more or less the same with every doctor. But that doesn't mean we do the same with every doctor, because in the end, hey doc, what do you like? What are you doing? What is your life already existing? We need to build on that. Otherwise, it isn't humanitarian. Otherwise, it's bullshit public relation, and bullshit public relation will backfire on you one of these days. Public relation has to be rather honest.
If I go to Amazon.com books and type in your name, Helmut G. Flash, you've written 3 books. Let's talk about those 3 books. One of your books is Double Your Business But Not Your Troubles, Expansion Strategies for Small Business Owners and Entrepreneurs. What was going on in your life? What was the journey to make you write a book? I mean, that's a hell of a commitment to write a book. What made you write that book, and what is that book all about?
I'm not so sure it was such a hell of a commitment. Thanks for the compliment, which, I was consulting for quite a while, and I believe I have a little bit of, other life experience, worked for many people, great companies, small companies in many countries. And I have noticed that in the end, there's really a common denominator. even though it is not so. I mean, everybody runs his company different. Jeff Bezos, whom you mentioned, runs his company very different than Steve Jobs did run it, or other people. And that doesn't mean they're not all somehow successful, but there are certain things that they're doing. To be honest, I'm not even 100% sure anymore what I wrote in the book. It's a long time ago, and I don't know about you, but I forget exactly what I was writing it. But it has, of course, a lot to do with advertising and doing the steps of advertising. It has to do with, how to give instructions on all those things, how to get a job done. Most people, not just dentists, they say, do this or do more. Let's just say we want 10 new patients. Okay. I give a bonus when you get 10 new patients. You can give $1 million bonus if your staff doesn't know how to get 10 new patients. Doesn't do any good. 10 new patients is a bad target, or 100 new, whatever the number is, which is good and real. What you need to do is send 10 more messages to doctor, to this guy, do this, call this offices, do this, put Facebook ads, do print flyers, put them out, and quantity. Then you can quantify, and the end result will be more new patients. But that's not what people do. So the book talks about all these type of little things. It's amazing how many doctors I talk to, and they say, my biggest trouble is staff. I don't have good staff. I need to train my good staff. And they try that for 20 years already. And at the same token, they don't train them, or actually the problem isn't the staff. The problem is right off the bat, they are understaffed. They don't have anybody to do marketing. They say, well, we don't have anybody for that. I go, yeah, that's your problem. Imagine if you wouldn't have anybody to pull teeth. That wouldn't be so good. And if you think that doing public relations, doing marketing, doing recall, in many cases even doing collection, whether it's from the insurance companies or from people, well, then of course you have trouble. And of course, marketing is something like saving, which everybody does when there's something left over, which you and me know never is. It never happens. There's always that unexpected, be it the tax season with extra thing, be it the computer breakdown, be it something, be it some people being sick, being whatever it is, being somebody quitting. There's always something which makes training people and doing certain works which needs to be done never happening. And it's always the work which brings money in the future, because whatever brings money today, getting the patient in the chair, that understandably has to be done. If you work in a restaurant, that guy needs his beer right now. But if that means you don't have time to collect his name and his email address and his cell phone number and his WhatsApp number and whatever else he might have these days, and then go and try to send messages to him and ask him how the thing was and ask him to post on those Yelp and whatever it may be, if you don't have the time to do all that, well, you're creating a future with trouble. One can predict the future. So more or less, this is what I kind of talk about the book. Lots of it turns around marketing, however, and why it doesn't get done and how it is not so difficult to do it. How one doesn't have to be, there's no marketing geniuses. Perhaps there is, but what I'm saying is marketing is something born into us. When we were kids, we asked mommy to whatever, give us candy, and we did it in many different ways till we got our candy in most cases or in many cases. And I always say parents raise their kids in the first 3 years. They do nothing but trying to get that kid to talk, and afterwards they do nothing but trying to tell the kid to shut up. And then they become adults and want to sell and want to sell $1,000 root canal and a $6,000 crown and bridge next to it or whatever, and they wonder why it doesn't work, because they may be saying it once and the person says maybe not, maybe later, whatever he says, he doesn't put the money down, and then they don't say anything anymore. And then they wonder why nothing happens. But that's with everything. That's with training people. That's with all kinds of things. So it's those basic things which actually make up life. As you said, Jeff Bezos, for what, 15 years he lost on every book he sold, something like that. I may have gotten the number wrong, but it's an awful long time, and yet every single day he was able to convince people they should invest more in him. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. There's nothing wrong with it. He managed, and he did. I don't know. Are they profitable these days? I think they are by now, or not?
Yeah, they're barely profitable. And I mean,
Yeah, because they
and then whenever
because
he
of course.
comes out with another bad earnings, where it's going to be dismal earnings, he says, "Well, we're gonna get rid of we're gonna deliver packages by drones." He's always distracting them onto the next greater thing. Don't look at the fact there's no profit today, because tomorrow it'll be drones, and then but yeah, he just keeps the story alive. Another thing that's difficult about what you talk about is marketing as very different levels of taboo and acceptance with dentists around the world. I mean, there are countries in the world that look at how Americans advertise and think that is gaudy and tacky, and they would never do that. And some countries to this day, dentists aren't even legally allowed to advertise. There's
Well,
dentists.
tell me about it. Sorry to interrupt you, but from where I'm, Austria, my country, my native country, if any doctor would only do 2% of what I tell him to do, he would lose his license. He would go to jail probably.
Yeah.
It's simply not allowed. They even, they get a quota. When there is X amount of people and there's X amount of dentists, or any doctor for that much, no other doctor will ever open till one dies. It's controlled by the government.
And do you think
it's not even a communistic country.
Yeah, well, Germany and Austria, very, very organized. I mean, they seem like, I've been to, I've lectured in 6 continents, over 50 countries. Like, for instance, if you go into any $100 million a year revenue dental company in America, they probably don't have one PhD scientist, and they probably have a call center that has 30 or 50 people dialing for dollars, calling dental offices, and they're having contests, and every time they get a sale, there's someone up there cheerleading and giving them a lottery card, or fired up. And then you go to Austria, Germany, Liechtenstein, Switzerland. There's no call centers. They don't even have a marketing department, but they'll have 6 men in white lab coats and PhDs, and they just truly believe that if they just build the best Mercedes-Benz in the world, it'll sell itself. And then you go to China, and they just believe that if you make it so damn cheap, people will just buy it. And I always thought there's three too. China just says make it so damn cheap they'll have to buy it. Your area of the woods, Austria, says just make it so damn good it'll sell itself. And the Americans say, damn, we can sell snow to Eskimos. We'll sell water to fish. We just sell it. I mean, it's and they could all learn from each other. But it's 3 major different camps, isn't it?
Probably more, but definitely. And this is where slightly my advantage comes in, which I, obviously made it a profession to pass on to dentists and to businesses, but mainly dentists. That is, I actually do have experience in those countries. I did live in 8 countries. My wife is from Taiwan. I do know the Chinese market a little bit. I have actually helped tremendous amount of doctors in India, Bombay. I think I started there forehand dentistry as a way of doing business, because just about every dentist, that was in '94, by the way. There was one dentist, and if he had a receptionist, which also doubled as an assistant, that was already pretty damn good. And the guy would usually go to work in the morning at about 9, 10, would work till about 2, 3, would go home, take a well-deserved nap, go to work again around 6, 7, work till 8, 9, and that was his life. And when I went there, and by accident on vacation with a friend of mine from India, a dentist in New York, who brought me there, and I said, and I gave a seminar, and I said, guys, basically hire dentists work to expand. I gave him my speech in a 1-day seminar, and this one guy came up afterwards. He says, but that's not possible in America, in India, right? I go, why not? Well, he says, all those things. People want to work for themselves and all those things and whatever it is. I go, well, I think, why don't you give it a try? What the hell? This guy today, I think, has a dozen dentists working for himself. and the whole thing became a big trend. Basically, yes, people should learn from other ways. You don't have to be always the cheapest, but sometimes doing something in that way helps. Lost leaders, as I call them, and as they are, they do work. They work for people who sell Mercedes, who are not necessarily the poorest people anymore, and they work in the housing market. I mean, look what the government does to make the bubble of housing going up because little down payment. So why shouldn't it work for a dentist? Yeah, and yes, does he have to be so irresponsible like the housing market bubble, which then has to crash eventually again? He can simply use it because people will come in. People now get to know him. He does something for them. With, for instance, a loss leader cleaning, where on top of it, he helps the community in some shape and form. And now, yeah, it's true. Half of the people will not buy anything from him. That's fine. Even if 20 or 30% of people only buy from him. First of all, if it's so little who only buy from him more, that means he has other problems. He literally has other problems. He's unlikable. His office is unlikable. It's dirty. It's whatever. So many, but even if only 20% of people buy more or less the normal service, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 of lifetime consumption, let's just say, we're very conservative. He still will make great money, but it's in the head, and we spent, I would say, 80% of our time not getting his Facebook campaign going or getting this and this going, which we do, because they don't want to do it. Fine, we do it. And we're so well organized. We outsource it. We do this. So we can do it cheaper than anybody, because we go on Fiverr and we hire people who do it so cheap. Even my niece, if she's good, couldn't do it so cheap. Buying her sausage costs more than getting people from other countries to do it, because it's all very automatic work. But we spend our time getting the mindset of the doctor changed and say, look, you need to be out there, and you need to be out there in many avenues. It's the synergy. You cannot win a war with only tanks. You cannot win a war with only airplanes. You cannot win a war with only rockets, with only sharpshooters, with only ships or whatever it is. You need to have them all playing in synergy, more or less a little bit timed. You don't have to be 100%. Such a thing doesn't probably exist, at least I don't believe. But you've got to be more or less in that direction. And like a football team, you've got to work a little bit together, and it will fall together. Immediately? Probably not. Our program, I would say on an average, it takes 2, 3 to 4 months till people see something happening, and not necessarily see a lot of money coming in. They just start realizing, oops, there's a buzz around us. I go to the local restaurant and people say, aren't you the dentist who was in the newspaper? Or aren't you the dentist who did this? Yeah, I was. And then it starts. And about 6, 7, 8, 12 months later, on an average, we double a guy. Doesn't always work that way completely, and sometimes it's way more, and sometimes it's less. It all depends on the guy's current setup. Most doctors have lots of more space for production in their office, but some not. Some are relatively, their physical properties maxed out. Then, of course, it usually takes longer because you need to do more juggling, more investment till you get to more physical property and etc. But most doctors can still fit quite a bit into their chairs and make more money. So then, on an average, a half a year to a year, doubling the practice. So let's just say 3/4 of a year to a year is not an unreal target at all.
You talk about lost leaders. We were talking about China makes everything cheaper. One of the oldest corporate dental chains in America is actually Affordable Dentures, which started in 1975. So that was one of the first ones, and they did that by going into every market and advertising the lowest cost, the extraction of one tooth. That was their only ad, like extraction, $75 for a tooth. Well, no one comes in to extract one tooth. They were coming in to extract all their teeth and make a denture. Would upsell a lot of those dentures to the denture on 2 implants or a denture on 4 implants or an all-on-4 denture. So that was a very interesting business model that was very successful.
Absolutely.
I want to
The
talk.
whole world, I mean, all industries applied to some degree. If you don't mind, for instance, often people tell me, why should I do something for, let's just say, the poor people in town? Fine. I mean, on a human level, I get it, I understand it, but they're not my target. I do good dentistry. I mean, those people can never afford me. I go, you're not doing it for them to come in. You're doing emergency day for them, or you're feeding them, you're doing it for the people who see that you do that, the organizers of the food kitchens, all the people who donate to food kitchens. They see you. They have the money. You're not necessarily needing the poor people to come to you. You're getting the people who love it that you do that. And by the way, when we do a lots of emergency days with our doctors, where basically they open a day, free dentistry. Things which can be done in that day. And of course, even there, I tell them, hey, be reasonable. If a guy needs a follow-up on a root canal and whatever, give it to him, damn it. Do you understand? But on an average, it's like things which can be done, like you mentioned, an extraction here, a thing there, whatever it is, maybe a good cleaning and whatever it may be. And even from those people, they quite often get a good business. But for instance, a priest brings a bus of 7 people there, like a little minibus. And then the priest's family, the whole family comes to him as a dentist and spends a total of $40,000 in the next year or so. I mean, that type of stuff happens when you're out there, right there in the community, but not trying to pitch business, such as, I'm out there in the community, I attend breakfast meetings where there's 20 people there and everybody is only there that he hopes to get another piece of business on that day. That's not community activity. Community activity is really doing something for the people out there. I always say you have 2 choices. You give all the money, the advertising, to the newspaper and to the TV and radio and whatever the heck you think you might need to advertise, or you give lots of that money to your future / existing patients, because give an existing patient the same good loss leader. What the hell? He already made you money for a couple, 2, 3 years. He already made you eating. Throw him a bone, because so many people say, I will do a loss leader, fine, but only for new patients, not for the old one, because he's coming for his cleaning already anyway. Well, I think, I don't remember who that was, a telephone company, MC or whatever it was, long time ago, on my first cell phone, when I found out that they had cheaper rates than when I signed up. And I called up, I said, look, I mean, I'm still paying the old rate. He said, yeah, this new rate is for new people only. I said, really? And I don't get it? No. I said, good. You won't get my money anymore. Well, you will have to. We'll sue you. I could go and sue me. They never got a dime anymore from me. And somebody else got it. So anyway, there's nothing wrong with giving it to old people. But you have 2 choices. Give the money to all the advertising agencies, which you still have to do to some degree. You need to use their messages. But also give it to your future patients.
You also wrote another book that it's on Barnes and Nobles. It's called You Too Can Be Happy by Helmut G. Flash. And in dentistry, burnout is a serious issue. And there's a thread on Dental Town, and I just posted your book on this thread called topic professional burnout. What do you think your book was about, and why do you think dentists have so much burnout?
Well, it is a stressful job. I mean, let's admit it. I mean, you guys, you dentists, you work on a 2 millimeter space daily, day in, day out. And that is very confined, I might say, right? And that by itself is an enormous pressure. And of course, people who become dentists are what we might perhaps call perfectionists by design, because otherwise they probably wouldn't do that. I'm a mechanical machinery engineer from my first profession, and when you make cogwheels and do things, you need to be rather exact also. a tool maker actually. For all purpose, I could make a crown in terms of like I know how it functions because that's what we tool makers do also. But to me, it was too precise all the time, and thus I didn't like it. I'm more like a speaking type of guy, so I left. Would I have stood in it due to this, like constantly everything there exact? I might be burned out too. But it is a very, very stressful profession, and which is why I suggest doctors very soon in their career to become what I call an absentee owner. Doesn't mean they have to be absentee and should be always in Hawaii and doing nothing. I'm not saying that. What I do say is they should have a few employees. By employees, I mean doctor employees. And usually one doesn't do the trick. To be honest, the mathematics doesn't work out. Everybody says, well, that other guy, he produces only half of what I produce, or 1/3 even, blah, blah, blah. True. So hire 2 or 3 that you get that extra amount of production, and start cutting down yourself on dentistry. Get yourself more involved into management. Management is more loose. Look at you and me now. I'm talking to you from Austria, and I have people working in California doing my company. Management, you can be working at night, you can be working in the morning on Sunday. You can't do that with a root canal. You have to be there when the patient performs. And when they go into this direction a little bit more, which they have to learn to do, otherwise it stresses them out too. I got that. I understand. There's then that financial stress. They need to make payroll. Because most of them have it upside down. They want to first get the good doctor, which stays with them for a life, just like the good receptionist, which never happens. I mean, by accident it could, but on an average it doesn't. They think they must get that guy because otherwise the patients will not come back when there's a constant change of doctors, which is absolutely not true. They should know that because they themselves have very, very little retention rate these days compared to 40 years ago, don't they? I mean, every dentist complains about, people have no more loyalty. Well, bad, good, who cares? It's the way it is. At the same token, they leave you easier. You can also steal them, I use the word steal, from other doctors easier. And thus, you don't need to worry too much about whether that dentist you hire works with you the rest of the life or is there only a little bit. Or you can hire 3, 4 of them covering a week, each one 1 or 2 days. It's not that difficult, as long as you first step on your advertising, on your marketing pedal, because if you do it otherwise, all you do is have a chain around your neck with an overhead, and then marketing does take its time. There's no way to make that happening overnight completely. At least I don't know. By accident, sometimes it looks like, but that's an accident. On an average, it takes time. And if you don't do it in the right sequence, as I said, if you tell the tanks to shoot now and you do something else in the war, which I don't know what that would be, out of time, it wouldn't work. And so the burnout is, first of all, because it is a very hard profession. Doctors are very conscious and take it very serious. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a good thing for us patients that you guys do take it serious. It's a wonderful thing, but it does drain you. It does train you every day being in there, making things so perfect. And you know how we go. That bite, I feel it. It wasn't like before. Whatever it is. I mean, some people even complain after a cleaning that now they have sensitive teeth or whatever, and it's all the dentist's fault. And on it goes, right? So you guys have a hard profession, period. You're dealing with a human being which can, for all purpose, not be satisfied. I mean, again, I'm just making a metaphor. And due to the fact that you work on such a small space and that you care, that takes a lot out of you.
So you wrote a third book. This one's on Amazon. Economic Deception and Jobless, Hopeless Recovery Exposed. Getting fired now is the best thing that could ever happen to you. What is that book all about?
Well, I remember when people ask me, it's half a joke what I say now, but only half. The other half is actually true. When I started my business, and about a couple of years later, they said, well, what made you having the courage to start your business? I said, oh, that was easy. I couldn't find a job. Really, I actually, and you can call my employees if you want to and ask whether that's true. Lately, not so much because I'm not so much there anymore. every Friday on an average, we have a little meeting, little lunch meeting. We, sit together. We talk a little business, but mainly it's just, hey, the week went fine. Everything is good. This is what we planned. What's happening? What's going on? No finger pointing. No serious stuff we talk. And at that meeting, for almost 30 years, every single time I told them, you shouldn't be working for me, and you shouldn't be working for large corporations either. Because let me tell you, I can make a mistake tomorrow and be gone broke because, in the end, I'm still small. I can screw this shit up very fast. I can also make pretty good money and say, I don't want any more and close the shit down. And a large company, well, we know what happens there. And all that stuff happens. The numbers don't work out. 2,000 people leave, period. So you have more security on your own when you get used to fighting. Become a street fighter in that economical sense. You have much more chance of surviving and of getting big ever than whether you work for somebody small or big. Because when you work for somebody, except some really, really lucky exceptions, and you become another CEO of a very large company, you have a ceiling, a very definite ceiling, and there you need to be lucky. And it doesn't mean that in your own business you will super succeed either, but you could potentially succeed, and you can, more control your situation. And when all shit hits the fan, if you're on your own, and if you have been a street fighter, and if you have looked into the abyss a few times, and when you don't say, well, where can I get a job, and what certificates do I have in order to get what job, and whatever it is, you will be surviving any crisis better. I'm not saying you'll be like, wow, but you will be able to survive it better. That's my belief. That's all. I wrote about it.
So a lot of that book's very interesting because there's a lot of kids right now that are working for corporate dentistry, and the joke is that they pay you just enough money to kill all your dreams. So they're making $150,000 a year, and they get married, they have a kid, and they feel all comfortable and safe. So now it's scary to quit that and go start your own business and work for yourself. And I think, so what would you say to someone who's like, well, I'm comfortable now. I've been working as an associate for 4 years, and I would love to have my own, but I'm comfortable right now, and it's scary to go out on my own.
Well, not much one can say, because as long as he is more comfortable there, as long as the pain is not enough for him to go out, he probably won't. People do need to make their own decision at their own time. When I quit engineering after literally 3 months of working after I got my diplomas, people told me, you're crazy. You now got your diploma, you got this, you got that, you got all kinds of benefits from the company, which, we work. 3 years later, I said, come on, I'm too young to worry about pension and things which they already give me credit, blah, blah, blah. Well, 3, 4, 5 years later, in this particular area, the steel industry did hit some crisis and something, nothing like super major, but nevertheless quite down. And they were like, oh my God, you're lucky you're out. I said, well, you can get out too and do something else. Oh no, I now have 6 years or whatever. You understand? So they will do that all the time. Here's the thing. If somebody is happy in what he's doing, whether that's working for somebody, it doesn't matter what position, that's totally fine. If somebody is not happy and dreams of something else and doesn't act, well, he shouldn't even be felt sorry for, because it's ridiculous. You can't really feel sorry for them because they need to go out. They see it all the time, how the corporate people, and not so corporate, small companies, large companies, it doesn't really matter, how they get sacked for nothing or this or that. And even if they don't get sacked, imagine, I call it, you do things you don't want in order to get the things you don't want either. You don't want to drive a small old Toyota, and you don't want to go get up in the morning and go to work and fight with your boss or do what you do, whatever it is. You don't want to do that at their action, and you don't want to you don't want the result it gets you either, but yet you keep doing it. I mean, Jesus Christ, have a little more confidence in yourself and realize, okay, you're probably going to get knocked down, not necessarily, but probably. But so what? Get out there, go and do it, and start, because most likely you can make what you make now by only finding 1 or 2 gigs of whatever that is you think you might be doing,
You also, on your unadvertising.com, you talk about the pros and cons of paid advertising versus organic search on Google or posting on Facebook and other social media outlets. What do you mean by, what are the pros and cons of paid advertising versus organic search on Google or posting on Facebook?
Well, organic search on Google, while I think I relatively have a good idea how it works and I'm relatively okay on it, I have never really felt I'm in control over it, and I don't think many people are. I mean, 200,000 dentists in the country, or let's say 100,000 practices at least to advertise, something like that. And 50, 20, 100, 150 in one particular area at any given time. So there's like somebody saying, I get you on first page and all these things. It's just not really happening, and not consistently. Why would one do something which actually has no control and no consistently? Paid advertising, keep in mind, if the message afterwards is shitty, and then the paid advertising is probably a waste of money also, and will probably get you into the poorhouse relatively fast. I got that. But paid advertising is actually much more targeted. I mean, look, YouTube, enormously large and rich, owned by somebody even larger and richer, Google. Why did Google buy YouTube? Because video is the way to do. So any optimization, search engine optimization, I would do it via video, not on a website, but on a video. You put videos out on the major channels, not only YouTube, but those other channels which are out there, and you do everything there, because everybody loves videos. So that's still slightly better in terms of organic search. But why are those companies, including Facebook? Look, you can post on Facebook anything you want for free, and you can pretty much read anything you want for free. YouTube is the same. Google, you can check anything out for free. So how come those companies are part of the extreme largest companies in the world, period? And I mean, most money making. Why? They make money with advertising. So this keyword searching, the word dentist, well, dentist is dentist who is broke, is dentist dental school, is dentist meeting. I mean, the keywords in the organic search are so diluted that actually the people which have a very short, and you and me probably also, very short attention span when it comes to computer. So you go there, you type in dentist, or you type in any keyword, you don't right away find it, and then you on top of it get to a page on that website which is starting off with the guy's credential, or how nice of an equipment he has in his landing page, so to say, and you're gone. You're completely gone. So the paid keyword gets you much more to the targeted way than the organic search. It's a complete misdemeanor, I believe, on the false data actually. That and I don't know whether anybody such as Google or YouTube or whatever puts it out, that organic search people will buy more. I think that's a complete non-true. People will buy when they see something which is good. Which, by the way, when it comes to any type of search, you got to get people to a page which in today's age, I think most of them are called landing pages or capture pages or whatever, where if your keyword was root canal, talk about them root canal there. If your keyword was dentures or mini dentures or whatever it was, well, talk about it there. And don't start off with your story of where you graduated. The truth of the matter is a patient is not interested where you graduated. It just isn't. He doesn't. 99.9%, he wouldn't know the college where you graduated, even if it was Harvard.
Right, I agree. You also talk about The 3 deadly mistakes made when making an advertising video.
Wow. The 3 deadly mistakes when making an advertising video. Probably one of them, which I always make, it's too freaking long.
How long do you think a video should be?
Oh, I don't know, but it shouldn't be too long. Again, all this like what it should be. I'm not into that. I'm more a throw potatoes at the wall and see what sticks type of guy. And that is not necessarily the same all the time at the same time of the year and that is for the same type of video. So I'll just keep more or less doing that. For instance, whiteboard videos work very well because, they capture the person with the drawing. He tries to imagine what comes out. It's relatively concise, scripted. It's not boring, and they can be very short, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, and actually get a story enough across in usually a humorous type of way. But the most important thing is the video doesn't get seen. People put it on somewhere on their website. Well, that's fine. First of all, no dental website has lots of hits. Even dental consultants like me, the type of hits we get is minimal. I mean, as I said, again, any little singer, any little guy who, it wouldn't matter what it is, will get huge amounts bigger hits than something for, as narrow as this whole field. So anyway, videos on the dental side is a big put them on your site, but put them, as I mentioned before, put them on many, many websites, video websites like YouTube and Vivo and whatever those websites are called. There's about a good half a dozen or so, which are pretty damn good. And put them out there in intervals of a week or 2 or 3 over and over again. And every time you put them out there, you cut them just a little different. I, for instance, make them a little longer, 15 seconds longer. Well, put a slide in the back with your phone number, put a slide in front with your phone number, or whatever it is. Make them, every time you put them out, make them 50 seconds longer, change the keywords, of course, and do that literally every couple of weeks with every video you do, and with approximately 4, 5, or 6 different of those huge websites. Now what will happen is Google will pick it up, and it's the video, not your website, but it's totally okay because somewhere on there you will tell them where to go. Calling would be a good thing, actually. Don't send them to another boring website. Which, no matter what our websites are, I told you, my website, I don't think it has made me any money yet. Of course, it doesn't mean because of it I will not take it. I will take it down. But I'm very, very lazy in updating it because it's not actually the medium where people are going to make the decision.
Well, you told me exactly 1 hour and 3 minutes ago that you were worried at the end of this interview it'd start getting dark and the sun was going down. And now an hour later, I can still see you, but I can see the sun is going down. So what time is it there now? What is it, 9?
9 and whatever minutes you tell me.
So what? Also, I really like your YouTube video on your website. If they go to unadvertising.com. So do you want me to put this YouTube video at the end of the podcast so they can hear that right now?
That would be lovely.
Okay, can we do that, Ryan? Let's do that. And by the way, I got a joke about you, about more jokes about Austria versus the United States. When you go to dental factory, I've been to dental factories all around the world. And my gosh, when you go to a dental factory in Austria, Liechtenstein, Germany, Switzerland, I mean, it is an entirely different level of organization. I mean, like in America, you go into a factory and say, "Where's the bathroom?" And somebody would stop and point. In Liechtenstein, you'd look down on the floor, and there'd be a blue line that would take you to the lobby. You just follow that blue line. There'd be a red line that would take you to the bathroom. I'll never forget when I was a little kid. I asked my dad, when they built the space shuttle, there was this big arrow on the outside of it that said fuel, and it was pointing to where you put the fuel in. And I told my dad, I said, when we take our car to the gas station, we don't need a big arrow there. And I said, it just seems crazy that the very smart people at NASA have a big arrow to where you put the fuel in. And my dad laughed. He goes, "Howard, those are all Germans." He goes, Germans, everything's to the detail. Everything's foolproof. He goes, that's Germany, and Austria and Germany. You said Austria, Germany used to be part of Austria, right?
Well, it,
Who knows?
yeah. I mean, after all, Hitler was Austrian, right? They rejected him in the Austrian army, so he kind of showed us who how unfit he is, right? But you're right.
Was
Germans,
Hitler born in Austria?
Yeah, he was.
I did not know that.
Born and raised in Austria. What you said is very clearly. For instance, I know for the very first time, really, that I actually do business in Austria. I'm now 64, and here I am, and I drive the people wild here in my area because I'm so hollow, easygoing, and they say, oh, you have huge a personnel problem here. They don't want to work and they want to do this and I just take it. And they say, what are you doing tomorrow? What is your plan? I say, well, let's take it easy. Let's see what comes to us, and then we take the next turn. I don't quite know. I'm building a little amusement park here right now on a lake I bought, and that very same thing. Yes, the smart people put an arrow where you put the damn fuel on a rocket. And it is like that, but it's fun.
And I got to tell you, seriously, the only place in my life I ever took pictures of the bathroom and texted them back to my 4 boys was in Austria. I lectured somewhere in Vienna, and I was staying at a hotel, and that shower and toilet was the most over-engineered Mercedes-Benz plumbing I'd ever seen in my life. I was sitting there looking at it. I was taking pictures of it, telling my boys, I bet that shower will last 250 years. And in America, they would have just thrown the damn thing together and it been cheaper. So a lot of Americans would have bought the cheaper toilet, not knowing that they'd have to have the plumber come out to their house and fix it every year for the next 50 years. But I mean, I am always amazed at the level of
one can overdo it. It's not, I really believe that it's not necessarily very much right or wrong. People always ask me, which country did you like the best? As I said, I lived a couple of years in India, in Africa, Italy, Switzerland, France, Germany, England, whatever, Taiwan, even Latin America, and of course in the United States for the longest, literally. And which place did you like the best? And I go, I really, and I mean it, I really can't say that. Number one, I literally liked all of them, and there's no better and worse, but they are different. And it's true, there are some places where that difference, you say, okay, I'm perfectly fine here for a couple to 3 years, but then I would rather like to go home. And to be honest, right now, that still always happens to be the United States.
Wow. So where do you live in the United States?
Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Northridge.
Granada Hills.
Granada Hill, Northridge. The office is in Granada Hill.
Thank you so much for coming on my show. I love the internet. Thank you, Skype, which is bought by Microsoft, who just bought LinkedIn. It's so cool that you can Skype me all the way from Austria. And thank you so much for coming on the show today for an hour and to talking to all my homies about all your books and all that you've done for dentistry. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Howard. Thank you very much.
And I posted your book on Dental Town and the professional burnout, and we'll post this video on Dental Town. It'd be interesting to read the results because I know burnout is a big disease. It's hard to be on top of your game when you don't want to go to work. So that'll be an interesting dental book. All right, have a great day.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot.
Hello, my name is Helmut Flash, and today I'm going to talk about how to double your practice without spending money on advertising, and that's really the key here. In times, at any given time, advertising is just very expensive. Not that it doesn't have some need sometimes, but it is very expensive and brings little. In times when economics are tough for the public at large, advertising simply does not work. It is too expensive, brings too little return, and the truth of the matter is it's almost impossible not to realize that we are going to have a couple of years of tough economics. Not tough like a recession or depression, however, the truth is elective surgeries, elective procedures of any kinds will be cut back a fair amount. And when business goes down for everybody, it doesn't mean that everybody has to do less business. It doesn't mean that. It just means that 1, 2, or 3 doctors in a certain area, in fact about 20–30% of doctors in a certain area, could be sticking out so much that the remaining business, which still is there, you know, be that 70%, be that 50% of the normal, whatever it might be, that 70 or 50% does not get distributed equally, but gets distributed to the few who do the right thing. Means what? They got to be visible to the public in a way that the public loves them, likes them, and trusts them before they ever have stepped foot into your practice. And that is what advertising is all about, which is our program. That is what not wasting money on advertising is all about. Doubling your practice, not despite a bad economy, but because of a bad economy where everybody, your competition, will be simply putting their head into the sand and absolutely do nothing. They will have no money to market or less, and they will not want to market simply because they have experienced or will experience over the next few days, few weeks, months, and years, that business will go down and people will buy less even though they advertise. And thus you must find a way to get more people coming to you, get a better return for maybe 5, 10 or 15% of what you would be otherwise spending with advertising. So spend 10 or 15% and get 2 or 3 times more the return. That is what advertising is all about. That is what large companies, that's what movie stars, and that's what other politicians, that is what they use. And without knocking politician, if things work for a politician to get him trust, where everybody expects him to be untrustful, not saying that they are, guess what it will do for you as a doctor? Yes, that's what it will do. Go call us, find out about our program, which is phenomenal, which takes very little of your time personally, which costs literally nothing. Even our program to purchase it is so far below the price any marketing consultant out there will ever suggest, but most importantly, the money you spend to market is so enormously less than any other consultant out there will suggest you that it is not even real. Give us a call today, get on the program. We are having it. We do have a solution. We've done that for 15 years. In 1991, when it wasn't so easy out there either, that's when I started my business, and that's when actually we came up with this particular activities of advertising, and it worked fantastic, and it works now better. Why? Because we're better. Call us and you will be happy. Ciao.